Yeah, I want to go over a couple of useful knots that I use a lot. One's like it's called a taut line hitch, or it's 3 half hitches, or it's an extra hitch past the 2 half hitches. You use it with tents a lot. You can use it with holding down cargo. I'll show you what I mean by it. So you put, say you got this rope and it's around a tree, right? And I know you can use other types of knots in this, but I like this one best. Put it around, give it enough rope here. Put it around twice, like so, right? Just a couple loops. Do another loop. And the advantage of this knot is this. Tighten it down just a little bit. When you pull the rope, it doesn't slide down. You can adjust it and it stays like that. Now what I like to do is, just to make sure it ain't screwed up, I always put an extra loop in it, like so. But they use this for tents, so like if you're securing a tent, you want to slide, instead of using those little plastic things. Never had those plastic things way back in the day, those little aluminum things that adjust the rope. You use this instead. So that's it. And I'm just also going to warn you, when you're doing knots, it weakens the working strength of the rope. Anytime you put bends in here, it weakens the strength of the rope. Now I like this knot just for even like a 2 half hitches, which is the same damn thing. This is also called a 3 half hitches. I like this better than for wrapping around like a pole or a tree than a clove hitch. The problem is, with the disadvantage of this knot is, for around a tree, is to see this is 2 half hitches right here. Is that, and that could slide easier, see? But the disadvantage of this knot is that it's easier to untie the clove hitch than it is this one, but I trust this knot a lot better. The clove hitch is like you just push the rope this way and it unravels, but that's what I don't like about it. It can come loose, man. I don't even like using 2 half hitches. I like using a taut line hitch with an extra hitch. So go over that one, go over another one here. Okay, so say you got this paracord and you want to attach it to this big rope, right? You're thinking, well, I could do a square knot. Is that going to work? Maybe it will, but not really. It pulls right out, right? That don't work. What you use, it's called a sheep line hitch, I think it's called. The big rope gets, or sheet line hitch, is that what it is? Man, I'm doing this off of memory from 80 years, freaking 50 years ago or something. The big rope gets the loop. You just make a loop. This guy, you just go up through the loop, around the back like that. That's the little rope, right? And like this. See that? And that, then you can secure the big rope to a little rope, and it works. You might want to have this down here further, because the way it tightens on itself, I don't know, it just works, man. That's how you can secure a big fat rope to some paracord. So you ain't got enough length. One problem is with this, if you let tension off of it, it can come loose pretty easy. And I don't know, do a couple more knots here. There's a lot of bullshit knot. I mean, you could freaking just, say for instance you want to make a loop on the end of the rope, you could just freaking open that out a little bit and just make one overhand knot in a damn rope on the end, and you can have a loop like that, right? That's a simple, quick way to make a loop, Problem is, like I said, every time you make a knot, it weakens the actual strength that the rope is rated for. So you got to be aware of that shit. That's why if you get fancy, you get into splicing, which I forgot how to do. But that involves more time. Most people don't do that. And of course, we got your infamous square knot, right? You just put it around. It's just a couple. It's simple, but you know the problem with the square knot is? Well, besides people tying the granny knot, you gotta remember that you want this part to come even with that, okay? You know what I mean? So it looks like you got 2 loops. You know the problem with a square knot is? You literally lose, I think the rope is rated at like 40 something percent of its strength. That's how much freaking strength you lose. And if you make square knots on ropes and you're thinking, oh, this rope's rated for 1,000 pounds working load, well, it just became worth maybe 450 pounds working load. So, you know, besides tying a knot accurately, you got to watch for, you got to keep in mind, knots really weaken the shit out of weight. Even the best knots, I think you might get 65% of the working load of this rope. You know, it's not that great. Yeah, I want to go over bowline hitch because, well, it's easy to tie, right? You just put a loop like that, right? Make a loop like that. See, the rope is over that, like that. The loop is to the right. Take the end of the rope. This is like when you're freaking getting pulled up by a helicopter. If you do this wrong, you're dead, right? Screw it up. And you come up through the hole. The rabbit goes up through the hole. You know what I said. It goes, comes around, goes down, and down through the hole, right? Like that, right? That's it. That's it, okay? And when you tighten it all down, you got a loop, like big ass loop like this. Big old loop like that. You wrap around your body and shit. So it's like pulling you up out the helicopter. You're pulling it up this way. Now, the one thing is if you're in a hurry doing this shit, now I have a habit of, I know this rope goes over the top and, you know, it goes to the right. You know that? I know that. Start that way. If you just think you make a loop and you do that and you come up this way and you do this, you come down that way, right? And you got it to the left, you know what I mean? And you pull this, it'll come right apart, man. You're done, baby. You're done. You're flying, hitting the ground, you know what I mean? So make sure you start, you know, it's easy with the rabbit going up through the hole, back around the tree, and coming down the hole. But make sure you start with the loop like this to the right with this over that. Then you remember the rabbit comes up the hole, goes around the tree, yeah, goes down the hole, okay? Then you got it. And you got to make sure when you make these these loops, these knots, that you tighten them up sufficiently before you start getting pulled up in the air or some crap off a cliff or up by a helicopter, or else you're dead meat. Make sure it looks like that. You know, I personally wouldn't trust that. I'd probably put like a lot more length on here, put some other half hitches on it. Shit, like with this knot, actually doesn't weaken the rope as much as what do you call it, square knot. I forgot what it, every knot weakens the rope, working strength of the rope, but this isn't it. I forgot what it is, and maybe it's 60%, 65%. The bowline is, you know, not too bad. So in other words, you get this big old loop, which I made too big to go around the body. Maybe that's for like a horse or some shit, I don't know. You know, I was kind of just demonstrating a knot, so. But you should know these things inside out, at least some of them. You don't need to know everything. I mean, there's a fisherman's knot, there's some other knots. I never really use other knots too much. I usually use, I don't like the clove hitch. I know it's good for tying a boat to a freaking pier because you can untie it quick, but if the rope's moving around a real lot, I don't like it unless I put an extra hitch in the clove hitch. I usually like using that, even though it's harder to untie. I like using the 3 half hitches. So the square knot, it's 3 half hitches. I think it's a sheet lined bend, whatever, for big rope to the little rope. Bowline. I mean, I guess a fisherman's knot is good to know too, figure 8. But you know, you don't need to know too many knots to really tell you the truth, but you need to know some. That's what it really comes down to.